And now we are live. June 1st. Happy June, everybody. This is the Event Success Insights podcast live with me, Chryssa Skodra. And here we are discussing in this episode series the latest trends with influential thought leaders, professionals, and academics in the event industry from Finland and from around the world. This podcast series is powered by Lyyti, the leading event success platform that enables you to plan your events and create meaningful encounters, and most importantly, measure them as well with the Experience Value Score, the EVS. Check out more at lyyti.com and eventsuccessmanagement.com. This is a live show hosted by me, the world's first ever event success manager. And we are streaming at the moment live in 3 different platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So wherever you're tuning in from, whatever you're doing at the moment, feel free to drop your questions and comments below in the native platform that you're listening and watching us at the moment. So this show is broadcasted live from the heart of Helsinki, Finland. And today I have the great pleasure and honor to have the CEO of Management Events. Let me show her. Da-da! Jenni Tolonen is with me in the studio. Hello, Jenni.
Hey, Chryssa.
Thank you for joining me here in the Event Success Insights podcast. And you have a very interesting topic that I believe many people who are leading people and leading processes and leading events, hopefully they'll find some interesting insights. So what is today's topic that is close to your heart?
We're going to talk about leading change and actually also transformation, and how to support people with the mindset of continuous development.
Exactly. So from leading change to continuous development, transformation, and leading that organizational mindset. Yes. How this can be done. So Jenni is a person here to tell us how all this can be achieved. And before we open up the topic, I'd like to hear a little bit about you. You're a powerful woman, CEO of a large company here in Finland, and with operations, international operations as well. So I would like to know you, or for our listeners to get to know you a little bit more. So what brought you, Jenni, to where you are today? Because I think the little that I know you, I know of you quite well, but I know you little personally. I think you're a great example of working yourself up the ladder from the very grassroots level to the CEO position. I think you have a great understanding of everything. So what are the insights and the highlights of your career so far?
Yeah, I've spent 18 years with management events. And started from the entry-level position we still have. And this is sometimes my forte, and sometimes I think the organization doesn't always like that I know stuff quite inside out. So that's both ways. But it's also something that I think has kept me really close to the people. All these years, I'm very, very curious and interested about everything that is going on in the front line. And of course, the international operations, my timing was optimal when I joined the company, accidentally optimal. So back when I joined, we started to actually go international and open the Swedish market as the first one. So it was a great school of what international business and building international operations coming from Finland actually is, next to what we might have learned in school. So that's briefly it. And I'm still very passionate about our product, and I like to be a lot with the people. And then I feed my achievement motives by teaching yoga and studying Mandarin Chinese.
All right, that's great. We have already some comments here. They appear on the screen. And thank you, everybody, for watching and commenting. This is a live show, so please leave your comments from wherever you are. They will appear in the screen as well. We'll take time to address them as well. So Satis and Raya, have already left their comments, but I'll come back to you. So let me ask first. You said about the event, the management event product. So what is the product? What is management events, and what kind of services you offer?
Yeah. Well, our core is to bring the right people with shared interests together on the right time, if we really compress that. So the heart of the service that we deliver is one-on-one meetings between decision makers and solution providers, but also decision makers being able to discuss with their peers.
Mhm.
And also consume content that helps them to stay relevant. And what the pandemic clearly taught us is that the need to benchmark problem solving and priorities with the peers is larger than ever before. We rarely anymore hear about long range plans that would go across multiple years, but it's more like how to capture the opportunities that the pandemic brought to multiple industries, and in a way how to tackle the challenges that some industries are still there. So we would like to see ourselves as sort of a community catalyst that can drive change, can drive growth, and can drive right type of connections that the business world needs at this point.
Great. So, management events, you mentioned that you want to be seen as a community catalyst. And obviously, the organization has undergone through the same changes or similar changes over the years. And obviously, the pandemic has affected everybody. Before we go and open up how your products and services help really to become this community catalyst, how did you, as an organization, learn, and what kind of learnings you have internally that you would like to share with the rest of the world?
Yes. Well, number one learning is that I have now learned to think that the pandemic actually happened for us and not to us. We would have never gone to test the virtual and digital opportunities and do this digital leap that our events have been about for such a long time. Companies have helped each other to capture the opportunities. So
the pandemic, you're saying, accelerated
because
certain
basically
developments.
we in a way lost our business overnight, literally. So a couple of weeks after the first news of COVID in Europe came, we did sort of small hybrids, and the first actually morning of 11th of March 2020, in the same morning, we needed to close the doors in Stockholm when the biggest event of the year was about to start. So then we were in a dark place. But then our teams, in a way, have the mentality that we have everything to lose or everything to win. And then they decided that, all right, we are going to save the company first, and then we are going to be best in the world, how we can do things differently. So and a lot of other things happened during those 2 years before we came here, but that's like compressing it, like no other choice. So then you need to start
Exactly.
from blank.
So let me read here a comment. We have Said. Said says that I have worked for management events in Kuala Lumpur, and Yen is a really great and friendly manager. So greetings from Said.
Thank you.
So great. Thank you, Said, for tuning in and listening. And Satish Gupta is saying, event manager, why remote? I'm a little bit old school, still prefer presence. Please put some insight into this context. So last week we touched upon also with Yvonne about the metaverse, and sort of it was the clash between the old school and the new age. So let's try to touch upon the Satish's comment here, and would you have any insights where the old school meets the new, and how can, because we're different learners, people are so different, they come from different cultures, there's certain changes and transformation happens on a global level, but then also on the local level, and the changes can be so different. So what is perhaps new to us and a trend here might not be the same in India, in Kuala Lumpur, in Greece, and in the US. So things maybe come in different stages and in different waves. So what is your take on new versus old, or how can those two be merged?
Yeah, and I think what we need to, how I at least see, is that we need to embrace this next normal in a way. First we spoke about new normal. Now there is the first next normal, and what this pandemic and this remoteness and digital world brought to us is that we can serve the people globally much better. There can be still local events or in-person events, but there are still quite a bit of travel restrictions, for example, and there's also certain comfortness in the remote participations. But two things will stay. People will need to stay relevant. And there are multiple formats to do that, be it online or be it physical, and people need to see other people. So those needs from the business life mainly, because we run business to business events, those won't go anywhere. So now I think it's more that I don't see that these would be opposite the new and the old world, but we need to kind of what we want to do at management events is to bring best out of both of these, and then combine those in the ways that something that fits you best might be different than what fits me best. But that's why we need to have these options and the agility in this next normal that needs to be constantly developed, how we approach that.
So you spoke about the agility, and agility comes also with development and improvement, learning and not bringing something that doesn't work in the past, bringing it forward. So you have to take some bold decisions, and if something doesn't make sense, you don't continue with it, or if something comes, you have to be agile and adaptive to grab the opportunity and move forward. And here, because we spoke about the change, and today's episode is about change and transformation, I'd like you a little bit to clarify to our audience and to my understanding, how do you see change and transformation? Are the two terms synonymous? Do they have differences? Because I have the feeling that the understanding that perhaps change is something that comes externally or imposed to us, whereas transformation is perhaps this innate internal will to evolve. What is your take, and how would you clarify the terms for our audience?
Yeah, well, I think it's a super relevant question that we also internally have discussed lately quite a bit. And I agree with you that change is something that might happen in the external world, and sometimes it forces us to change. It can be regulations, legislations, or other types of things that just will force us to change something. Transformation can also be triggered by external change, but it also needs to come from within. And in my thinking, change can be managed, and it oftentimes has a point that now the change is ready, and now we can see the implications of the change. But transformation, I like that term more because it gives much more freedom to kind of go 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back, and really mold and find the right kind of ways to best create value for the clients, because that's what the end of the day any company needs to get done better than the competition. So the transformation for me, it's more like an ongoing way to help to scale up the business as well, and double the revenues or triple the revenues eventually.
So you said about molding up, and what are the leadership qualities to people like you or anybody listening out there who's leading people and companies and processes and events? How and what kind of qualities a leader who drives that change and that transformation in the organization should have in order to inspire? Because if we, as you said, if transformation is internal, obviously it requires some internal motivation as well. So how have you gone about it? What lessons you have learned from your hands-on practice as well? And obviously, I know you're attending conferences, you attending events, you read a lot. So how could you crystallize what makes a great leader who's able to lead change and lead transformation in the organization?
Well, I have learned so many things the hard way. So leaders driving transformation need to be very humble and expect and welcome also sometimes brutal honesty from own organization. Not all the decisions we take are the best ones. And then there needs to be good trust that people can tell. Latest today at our Swedish market review, I said that, okay, now I need brutal honesty, that how do you really see this decision? So that's one thing. There needs to be a communication flow in the organization. Obviously, you need to know the customers. You need to understand what do they think of the changes you're making. So a lot of humbleness, hands in the sand, listening to clients and talking with the people and seeing how that goes. But then on the other hand, you also cannot change the direction of the change of everything that could be a challenge or a bottleneck. That then the selected direction, at least I try to make sure that we march one step at a time towards the direction we have selected, and because also the plan that can change every time when there is an obstacle or something doesn't go according to those. But very humbling. Leading transformation is a very humbling experience, at least for me as a leader.
Right. And how about you spoke, we had a short meeting before, and you mentioned the term change fatigue. And when an organization is undergoing change or transformation, or there is maybe a normal evolution, maybe their business is evolving, their product and service offering is evolving naturally, or triggered by external changes and whatnot. So obviously there is some kind of change fatigue, and if we look at the past 2 years, there is some COVID fatigue or post-COVID fatigue, or it could be staring at a screen, Zoom and Teams fatigue, and all kinds of we have our allergies, so maybe we have our allergy fatigue as well. But apart from that, when we talk about change fatigue, how do we combat that on the one hand, and then how do we encourage this embracing of change from the grassroots level? You have been an employee of management event, being employed there at first before being able to make any executive decisions. So what kind of leaders would you have liked at that time, or what kind of leaders inspired you and motivated you to stay so loyal? You're 18 years in the company, so obviously something was done right. So how would you say to combat fatigue on the one hand, change fatigue, and perhaps the resistance? People might not want to change, right? We're safe here, this is how always things have been done, and we were successful. And then inspiring them to take that leap of faith, if you like.
One thing that has always, from the very start, been strong in management events company culture has been that we celebrate success. And we don't only celebrate the big victories, but when milestones are being reached or there is even the smallest breakthrough. We are now again being active in, for example, UK and France markets. And when the first signups came from there, we immediately celebrated those. So I think it's highly important that there is no finish line thinking, that leaders would somehow emphasize that when these and these huge goals are done, then we have succeeded in this, because I think that can easily then cause the fatigueness, because it's a mountain that people need to climb. So I would say celebrating the milestones and steps towards the bigger goal. And then evidence of progress communication is one thing that I ask from my line leaders a lot, that on a weekly basis, please communicate what were the things we were successful this week that are going to take us towards the bigger goals, and that people see it's really, really important that the everyday work is connected to the direction of the company, that everybody understands that my daily work today contributed in these and these topics that we want to do. And then third thing is that we also need to understand why there is the fatigueness and help people to overcome that. Frustration is very normal when there is change. There can be criticism, and people might get also kind of bored that why is this not ready. So helping to handle those emotions as well, because there is no such change thing that would just keep everybody happy all the time, but going it through together and the sense of belonging to a team.
Great. We have a lot of people commenting here. So greetings to everybody, Anu and Ankor Divesh, and thank you for your comments. You are working in the event industry, so it's great to have you here. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions for Jenni regarding the topic that we are discussing today, which is leading organizational change, transformation, and affecting the organizational mindset. So let us know if you have any specific questions on this topic, and it's great to have you all here. So as you can see here, the comments from people in the industry. Jenni, you mentioned about celebrating the small successes. or the milestones that lead up to the big goal and achieving the greater, bigger success that ties with the strategic objectives and all this. Um, Before you mentioned also about being brutally honest. How important is to celebrate the little successes as well, and at the same time, as a leader, um, how are you able to handle perhaps the negative criticism, the negative feedback you get from your own employees, your own colleagues, clients potentially? Where, because obviously I think a leader should be able to hear not only the great
Mm,
sugarcoating the reality, but the things that didn't go so well.
mm,
And I think that drives the continuous development. If something didn't go so well, we fix it, right?
mm.
Next time we don't take that approach. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the biggest challenge probably for most leaders is to make sure that the organization is honest to you.
Mm,
People might
mm,
have a hurdle to actually be upfront. I think I'm rather lucky in the sense that we have very open communication in our organization, and our
mm,
people seem to be very open and honest. And kind of as a leader, your role is to deal with those things and then go problem solving, but make sure that the people who actually execute the change and then get the success together with the customers, that they are being celebrated and recognized of that. So leaders don't go celebrating; they go problem solving with black and
mm,
white put, but then where the work actually gets done and where the good everyday observations come,
mhm,
that the celebrations are there. And then, of course, for the whole company, we do different types of awards and announcements and things like that, where then the broader goals are being celebrated. But the recognition of the success and the progress is also in the everyday leadership. So it's in the one-to-ones between the team managers and the employees and in the team meetings. So it needs to happen in the everyday life as well, and not only with popping the champagne, which is also very
mhm,
nice,
mhm.
but it needs to go also to the personal feedback to every
Mm.
employee.
Mm. And now we're talking about employees. So it's been on my mind, and it's a great opportunity to ask you. Walk us through a little bit the company, the numbers, how many people work in how many countries, the languages, the different teams you're having. Give a shout out to all your people
Yeah.
listening and watching. So tell a little bit about management events and all the people who make things happen.
Yeah, we have around 200 employees. We are active across Europe, so all the Nordic countries, Benelux and DACH. That's where the operations mainly are, but we also operate towards other markets in Europe. And then we have a big team in Kuala Lumpur. I think some greetings already came from there. And also in Manila,
Greetings.
we have employees. So yeah, we have a lot of fantastic people, very ambitious, very smart, and very proactive. So we have around 60 people in the sponsorship sales, 60 people handling the CXOs who attend this network. So that's the primary business operations. We have customer success operations, fantastic producers who bring these products live to the clients, and
Mhm.
proudly say best functioning business support I have ever heard of. So marketing, finance, people and culture, very business driven. So overall, yeah, that's like a short recap,
Mhm.
but very international,
Mm.
very diverse. And I don't anymore have track how many languages we
Mm.
speak and how many nationalities we
Mhm.
have. But everyone seems to very well share the values and the mission and vision. So those bring people together across the borders.
Very good. And let's go back to so these are the people across borders and respecting, as you said, the values and the vision and mission of management events that bring all these great products to the right people, to the right audiences. So let's go back to management events, because you mentioned that you wanted to be what was it, community, a
Catalyst.
catalyst, a community catalyst. So you provide this innovative business solutions in networking. So could you clarify to us the big pillars? So there is this CXO networks, there is different other content that you're producing. What would be the highlights? And if somebody is not familiar yet, I advise them to listen now to Jenni's answer and check out managementevents.com for more information. But if you want to highlight some jewels, because you do a lot of great work, so what would be the jewels, the that you would like to highlight to people's attention?
Yes, the Aurora Live Business Network, which consists of the CXOs from mainly top 500 companies from our markets, it's where they get together to meet with each other. They talk about various topics, what is on their mind, and we facilitate those discussions so that they are effective and they have key takeaways. It's really important that people feel that they spend their time well. Then we provide content, and we have recently launched also this business buzz episodes, which are more on general topics such as metaverse that I know you and Evan also spoke about last week. We've spoken about the situation in Ukraine and how that impacts business. So larger selection of topics that help decision makers stay relevant. And then they meet with the solution providers one-on-one on a quarterly basis. So in these short 15 minutes meetings, they find then from the solution provider landscape those partners who can best help them to solve their challenges in their organization. And we have both live gatherings and live content, but also on demand. So for this Teams fatigue that you also mentioned earlier, people don't stay in virtual events for hours and hours, but also want to consume it when they have the time. And we still do physical gatherings as well, but then we use that time for informal networking and dinners and more like fun stuff.
You mentioned when you started explaining your thoughts that it's all about time well spent. And this is exactly what event success management is. It's at the core of the event success management methodology, and especially in Lyyti regarding the one product feature called the experience value score. So are you familiar with the experience value score?
Yes, because I studied that after our previous meeting.
Right. Okay. So as you then very well know, and to everybody outside there who are not familiar yet with the experience value score, it's it's a North Star metric that asks the simple question: after each event, you ask your attendees, was my time well spent? So this is grounded in the theory that the time is money. And especially now after the pandemic, where we've been 2 years locked in our homes with very limited things to do in our disposal, now we will be very selective of which events we are attending, which events we're paying for, because our time is precious, right? We wasted 2 years of our lives. Now we have to be very careful which events we're attending. So the question there is, was my time worth it or wasted? So I like that you said also that we make sure that our events are valuable and meaningful encounters for those people, because those CXO level people, they might. You can also monetize this, how much an hour in their work is. So to spend 1 or 2 hours to come to your event or consume content that you've created for them, it's time taken from elsewhere, from other important business meetings, from even from their family and friends and hobbies and children and so on, and their personal life. So it is also a monetary investment. So the biggest investment in events, it's the time investment. So, and what is the feedback you get from your clients attending your events, management events? So what is the feedback you're getting, and how do you measure your event's success?
Well, we have very basic feedback questions that we use, and it's basically for example, we ask, how did we do today? My time was well spent. This content was relevant for me. Relevancy and time well spent. Speaker quality is, I think, bit blast from the past as such, but it's more that, is the content relevant? Because it's much more about of the substance there. And then of course customer retention. Do they come back? If it's a physical event, do people leave with a smile? So there are a lot of things that we want to grasp, and NPS is also one metrics that we use, but it's a combination. But I think it needs to be simple, and what we work a lot with is that we need to understand what's behind the numbers. We have a fantastic NPS score, for example, in Finland from this spring, but what I ask from the Finnish leaders is to please name top 3 things that you think explain this, so that we know what we should strengthen forward.
We have a question from Mikko Toivonen. Hello, Mikko. Thank you for your comments. So Mikko says, absolutely love that management events are now on the Aurora Live platform. You are doing what I always hoped you would. Even if it took a pandemic for the leap to happen, endless potential there. Keep rocking.
If this is the Mikko Toivonen who worked with us some time ago, which I believe he might be, best of greetings. I hope you're doing good.
Yes. So Mikko is writing his comment from LinkedIn, and this is the Event Success Insights podcast. And here we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in and listening. We are live now in the studio here on a sunny day in Helsinki, Finland, broadcasting live to you. And we are talking about organizational change, transformation, events, how we measure success in events. And Jenni was just explaining how what kind of metrics management events has in place and what makes sense in their line of work to evaluate event success. Talk a little bit, please, about the clients you're having and your unique value proposition to them.
Yes, basically we have two groups of clients. So the CXOs are one, and that we already spoke about. They have the network, they have their peers, and they have their insights. And then we serve a large selection of solution providers, namely ICT and consultancy companies who meet potential and existing customers in these one-to-one meetings. Leads as a service is what we call the service for these providers. So they have pre-qualified meetings with decision makers from their selected companies. So there's also the effectiveness factor for them. But they also oftentimes join these dinners and physical gatherings then for the more informal networking and then maybe to catch up and continue the discussions. So for them, it's the effectiveness in their sales and marketing processes. And then for the CXOs, it's more a holistic take on being up to speed what's going on with the solution provider markets, what the peers are doing, how is my competition doing, benchmarking, and how am I doing, and then getting inspired by this content that helps them stay relevant and hopefully makes them shine in the boardroom when they have this new idea or this new initiative that they can pitch then to their CXO colleagues when they go back home or go back to the office after they've been with us with the content or at the physical gathering.
I think that's very it's excellent because it touches upon the topic of today. We speak about development, and this is continuous learning. So once you're a top executive in a company X, it doesn't mean that the learning stops there. Now you're secure your position and you're running the company. Perhaps that could have been the idea many decades ago that you came in one position, you stayed there maybe throughout your life, and then you died, and that was your legacy. But people, I think nowadays there's lots of mobility, right? And even in the executive level, and those people have to stay relevant to be considered good and able to stay in their position. And I think what you're doing is excellent in management event, not only providing the networking opportunities, but it's very educational. I think everything you do, all the events and all the content you're producing, I think it opens the eyes and the understanding of this, especially the first target group you mentioned, the CXO level people. So obviously they're smart and well-educated people, but obviously continuous learning is great for everybody, and especially at that very highly competitive market and high top leadership positions.
Yeah, there's also certain information overload challenge with the CXOs and with decision makers, that there's so much out there you could consume and what you should actually explore. So that's also where we want to be sort of a curator and of course we talk with some of them a lot during the year and then figure out like the discussion topics and such, so that it would help them to also express their concerns or build a case where they were successful and so forth, and that they stay curious. That's really, really important.
Stay curious, stay driven. Great. So management events is not only a network catalyst, but what I hear is a filter, a curator of synthesizing a lot of interesting opportunities and putting them in a meaningful structure way, giving exactly this insights to people who might need them, as you say there on your website, to put them right to the next level and really help them perhaps in these times as we spoke about change and transformation and
Yes.
getting them to lead the company in the best way at their organization. So if we because we spoke about the what management event is, what are the concrete target groups from these people, the CXO people that you just mentioned, you speak with them throughout the year. What is the gut feeling that you have gotten, or concrete examples of their concerns over the past year, let's say? Is there a common denominator that you've been hearing a lot about, certain concern or certain questions they might have, or certain trends that you see that they're emerging in the event industry or in leadership in general?
I think there are two things that at least for me clearly stand out. One I bit touched earlier is that decision making is more complex than it was earlier, because what the pandemic taught, I think, to everyone is that there are unpredictable things that can come. Hopefully not similar to what the pandemic was, but you need to be much more alert and observe your surroundings much more than earlier. So that's why this, like, talking to other people and figuring out, like, am I doing the right decision? That's one thing clearly that people need. Another thing, leadership wise, is finding the talent, keeping the talent. I think that's on everyone's mind at the moment. And also what we have been doing a lot is that it's not only like how do we hire more people, but it's about reskilling, retraining your existing teams or team members to new type of position, and when your business evolves, and that's easier said than done when people need to trailblaze in unknown waters a lot and figure out new ways of executing the work. So I think that's a very, very big topic across any of the industries or positions that we also work with.
And I think that ties exactly with what we've been discussing today about leading the change in the organizational mindset, continuous development, continuous education, learning. All this requires certain types of people and processes, and it's, as you said, it's easier said than done. Let's take a little bit a look at the questions here, Jenni. I have Jenni Tolonen, CEO of Management Events, in the studio with me. This is the Event Success Insights podcast. And here we have a question saying, live, virtual, or hybrid events, which format does management events and visits that will take over in the coming years based on the feedback you receive from the customer? So very customer-centric question. And again, is customer right always? Or what? Let's hear first, what do you hear from the customers? What wishes they have?
Our customers have very different wishes, and that's why we have decided to have both digital content and live content. We have virtual peer-to-peer discussions, and we have live peer-to-peer gatherings. We have small gatherings and larger gatherings, because what this world today enables is that everyone can sort of pick and mix from the menu. When you go to a restaurant, you don't eat the full menu, but you eat like, oh, okay, today I'm in the mode for something light or something else. So that's what at least we want to do now, is that they can bring what they need. Some people crave for the live gatherings, and they might mainly go there, and some still feel that they want to consume the content when commuting or when they have a peaceful moment to actually focus on that.
And absorb it.
Yeah.
Do you have any statistics, any numbers that could show the diversity in virtual hybrid in your organization at the moment?
Well, it was evident when we started the live gatherings that we had every single seat full, because I think people had this
I'm hungry
need to go and see people live and enjoy nice meals together and really talk with the people. So that's clearly that. And for the virtual content, we can see certain topics that obviously when we did the episodes about the situation in Ukraine, those numbers peaked because it was something that was influencing all the businesses, every single person in the network. So those vary, but we follow those quite closely. But we also don't give up too easily. That if something doesn't show like super numbers on the first go, but the feedback from those who were there is good. We go back to like, was the time well spent from those who came there? Then that helps easily to take the decision that we will continue with this. So yeah.
Exactly. I'm glad that you raised this because the EVS as well, it's not only numerical, but it has open feedback as well under it. So you get really the insights, because when you have a number 73, okay, you can benchmark that my previous event was a 70 and now there's some increase. But then when you start reading really the qualitative feedback, these are really thoughts of people who have taken the time to write. I've put a 4 or a 5 or a 10, or depending what metric you're using, but they justify it by opening it up. Then you have the light bulbs moment that, okay, now I know more. Then you really have the insights. Numbers are not telling anything if you don't know how to read them and to really get the insights. Question here before from Endrik: are you happy with the platform you're using? And I don't know if it refers to the Aurora Live platform, or what is it? How do you understand this question?
Yeah, it's probably we use Invite People, which is the virtual events platform that we use now. I think it's the second or the third one that we use. And yes, it's functioning well for us at the moment, but we also test and try different tools and methods to do this. But feedback so far has been very good on that.
All right. Great. So this is the Event Success Insights podcast powered by Lyyti, the leading event success platform here from here in Finland, but also an international success as well in France, in Sweden, and across the world, so on. More information, check out lyyti.com and eventsuccessmanagement.com, and of course managementevents.com, right?
Yes.
So here I have the CEO of Management Events, Jenni Tolonen, in the studio, and we spoke about organizational change, transformation, leadership, how to measure events, what makes a successful leader in leading change and transformation. Is there anything, Jenni, on top of your mind that we haven't touched upon and you absolutely like to mention that ties with your topic today?
I think we have covered more than what we had initially thought that we would, but I think it's there are certain key things that I cannot overemphasize, like communicate about the progress when you lead the change, talk with everyone in your organization, go to the front line and understand them, and then still trust the vision that you have. So those at least as the guiding principles, and then stay humble as a leader and welcome the feedback and make sure that your organization is super honest with you. So then at least those have helped me to keep me and my team on track.
Very good. So stay humble, keep communicating, celebrate the small victories, right? Get the feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly, right?
Yeah.
Great. So before I let you go, it's now 12:42 here in Finland. We had a question last week. I had Yvonne here in the studio, the CEO of Huone, and here she sat there where you're sitting today and asked you a question. Did you watch the episode, and do you know what is the question that Evan addressed to you?
Yes, I think Evan asked an excellent question about these hybrid live or totally digital events, and how do I see the future of that? And I fully agree with Evan that there shouldn't be any boring meetings or boring events anymore. And I think the world is a combination of these. But what I think that all of us working with the events industry, we need to be more creative, and we need to inspire the people. Is it in a digital environment or physical environment that people feel inspired and triggered, and they could feel creative when they are consuming the content or being with their colleagues? So It's a combination of all of these. The world has so many opportunities at the moment that it's impossible to say like, yeah, I think that it will definitely be option A or B.
I like that you mentioned about inspiration and creativity. So I'd like to ask you, what are your sources of inspiration and creativity? Obviously, you trust your colleagues to provide their own insights and their own creative ideas. But you personally, where do you get your sources of inspiration and how you stay creative?
Well, I read a lot. If you have my family, I have books and magazines lying around a bit too much, articles here and there. But it's very important that I have headspace. If I'm too busy and the thought flow is too much, then it's difficult. So also exercising and having time off. And I have two very creative boys at home, like preteens. So that also gives certain inspiration on out of the box thinking, as funny as it might sound.
What are their names?
Theo and Enzo.
Theo and Enzo, thank you for inspiring Jenni and being a better leader with your creativity. So, you see, absolutely. I think creativity can come from anywhere, regardless of their age and social status and job. And, and I do agree with you. Inspiration is found a lot from reading and books. There's lots of wisdom outside. I love reading. I'm a bookworm myself. And obviously, there's a lot of knowledge out there. And many great ideas are crystallized in articles and books, and we have to consume a lot of things to stay relevant, and attending events and speaking with people and reading and watching movies, and the knowledge is out there. So it's how about we make the synapses and connecting the dots, then we come. Yeah, human brain. We can talk about that to another episode. So now, Jenni, next time I will have here one person that you know very well, and believe you cooperated with Andre Nolshaker many times before. Is that right? So you know Andre, and actually you met him yesterday, I guess.
Yes.
So he will be sitting in this seat next week. Andre, he is a Canadian-born, living in Finland for many years, as myself, an expatriate who's doing great. And he's a great speaker, an entrepreneur, award-winning public speaker, and very interesting the past years in artificial intelligence and public speaking, and in the creativity that comes from the intersection of these two disciplines, public speaking on the one hand and artificial intelligence. So what would be your question to Andre? You know him, you know what he's passionate about. And
we met with Andre yesterday at the Nordic Business Forum speaker contest, and my question to him will be, of course, he's coaching a lot of speakers and he's working with content. So what does Andre see as the trends for business event content to be relevant in the future?
So what is
the relevant business event content in the future? How does he see that's being built up, and what does it consist of?
All right.
I need this answer from him. It's very, very important for me.
Very important answer, a question to Andre. Andre, you have to break down this question and opening it up here next week. We will take the time to address Jenni's question in the next Event Success Insights podcast. Thank you, Jenni. Before you go, we have a question here from Andrea Alvarez saying, which key observations and or processes do you follow for determining your client groups? Did you target CXOs and solution providers since the beginning, or was it a gradual process?
We have had these two customer groups for roughly the 20 years that I have been on board. So that has been the initial part, that we can bring these people together to find the right contacts.
Great. Thank you, Andrea, for your question. And find out more at managementevents.com. Great website. You find a lot of information there, and get familiar with what the company is and what it does. And yes, Enrik says also, last comment, thank you for an insightful session. So thank you, Enrik. And thank you, Jenni, for being such a great guest. We can go on for way longer, but perhaps we can have something to eat if you'd like to join me for lunch. So I'd like to thank you very much for being here, for
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much for all your insights, and yes, you're lovely, intelligent, humble, well-spoken, so great leader to have there at management events. Cherish that woman. Thank you everybody for tuning in, listening, all your questions. This is live. We're closing now the live broadcast, but the video recording will be found later on at Lyyti's Event Success platform on YouTube. So check out the channel Event Success Platform, and then on LinkedIn and Facebook, lyyti.com for more information, and eventsuccessmanagement.com if you're interested to find out more about the new methodology of event success management that has its core the experience value score, a North Star metric to measure event success. Great. Happy June, everybody. So I'll see you next week, June 8th, with Andrea Shaker. Bye from